You know the moment. You come home. You haven't said a word yet. Neither has anyone else. But the second you step through the door, you feel it. Something in the air. Like a tightness. Like a weight sitting in the kitchen that nobody put into words. Nothing has happened. No one has spoken. And yet, you already know. This is not a light night in this house. You feel it in your chest before your mind can explain it. So now turn it the other way. Think of the last time you walked into a room and the ease reached you before the greeting did. Someone was laughing in the next room. The lamps were warm, and your shoulders dropped an inch before you'd even taken off your coat. You didn't decide to relax. You caught it. That thing you felt in both rooms. That's what we're sitting with today. Because the mood in the room is real. You can feel it. You've always been able to feel it. And here's the part most of us never stop to consider. You are one of the people setting it. You're listening to the quiet knowing within, your midlife awakening. I'm your host, M.I. Gnosis. And this is a space to slow down, turn inward, and make sense of the second half of your life. No noise. No hype. Just the quiet knowing that's been waiting underneath it all. So last time we sat with the foundation. The oldest idea underneath all of this. That your inner world generates your outer world. And that what happens inside you doesn't stay inside you. We call that the beginning. The ground everything else stands on. So today, we take the next step. Because if your inner world shapes your outer world, then the honest question is, how? How does this happen? How does something invisible, something happening quietly inside your own chest, reach out and touch the room? The people, the ordinary hours of your day. That's what today is about. All of the old laws we'll sit with together. This is the first one. And I think the most practical. The one you can actually feel working before lunch. So here's the idea said as plainly as I can say it. Ready for it? Everything, and I mean everything, is in motion. Nothing is truly still. Not the chair you're sitting in, not the wall behind you, not even the quiet you think you're sitting in right now. Because underneath what looks solid, everything is humming. And that includes you. Not just your body, your inner state, the mood you're in right now. Is not a still thing. It's moving. It's giving something off. Now you might resist that. And that's good. Because I'd rather you test an idea than swallow it. So don't take my word for it. Just take your own experience. Think back over the last week. Was there a day that felt heavy from the moment you opened your eyes, before anything had actually happened? And was there a day that felt light for no reason you could point to? Same house, same job, even the same people, but a different tone. The circumstances didn't change that much. You know what did change? You did. You did. Because something in your inner state was set to a different note that morning. And the whole day took its color from it. The whole day was formed from that inner state. Now, I'm not asking you to take this at all as physics. What I'm asking you is to take it as something you already know from living. Because you felt your own mood fill a room. And you felt someone else's mood fill a room. So let's give that inner state a simple name. Let's call it your tone. The tone you're living in. And your tone does three quiet things. The first, it radiates. It doesn't stay politely inside you. It sets the atmosphere. The room takes on its color. And slowly, it draws toward you what matches it. The day begins to arrange itself around the tone you brought into it. Now here's the strange part. We are usually the last one to know what tone we're carrying. You can feel everyone else's mood the second you walk in. But your own, you're standing inside of. It's like the smell of your own house. Everyone who visits notices it. But you stopped noticing it years ago. Because you've been breathing it every single day. Your tone is exactly like that. So familiar that you mistake it for the weather. You call it, it's just how things are. You call it, it's just how I am. When really, it's a note you've been sounding so long, you forgot it was a note at all. And a note you can't hear is a note you can't change. So before any of this becomes useful, there's just a noticing period. Slow, honest, unhurried noticing. And that's where all of it begins. So let me make this ordinary. Because this doesn't live in a temple. It lives in your own kitchen. Now picture the tone you carry to the coffee pot in the morning. Some mornings you come down already braced. The drawer is set. The day is a list of things about to go wrong. And you haven't even poured the first cup. But you don't notice any of that. And quite frankly, you don't have to. But your partner feels it. The kids feel it. Even the dog feels it. And 10 minutes later, everyone is a little sharper with each other. And no one could tell you exactly why. And that's the tone. It arrived before the words did. So now, I think of a man I have in mind whenever I talk about this. He built a good career. Respected. Competent. The one people lean on at work. And he comes home, sits at the dinner table, and he's there. But, is he really? Actually, he's not there. What do I mean? His body's at the table, but his frequency is still back at the office, running the same tight loop it ran all day. And his wife asks if he's okay. And what does he say? He says he's fine. And technically, he's not lying. He's telling the truth. Nothing is wrong. But the tone he carried in has quietly flattened the whole table. And he can't even figure it out. He can't figure out why dinner feels like logistics instead of a family. He's not a cold man. He's just a tired one. And the tone, he doesn't even know he's broadcasting, is doing the talking for him. And it doesn't only show up at dinner. It shows up at 3 a.m. He wakes in the dark with a dread that has no name. Nothing has gone wrong. Because on paper, everything is fine. The career is fine. The house is fine. The numbers are fine. But there's a frequency running underneath that the daylight and the busyness usually manage to drown out. And at 3 a.m., with nothing to do and nowhere to be, there's nothing left to drown it with. So what does he do? He lies there, listening to a tone he's been carrying for years, finally quiet enough to hear. And that dread isn't a flaw in him. What it is a signal. It's the quiet knowing, trying to get a word in now that the room is finally still. Now, I want to stop here for a second, because that one may have landed close. And if it did, there's no need to rush past it. Take a breath before we go on, because nothing in this room is in a hurry. And if this is reaching you, if you're watching on YouTube, a quiet subscribe helps. And if you're listening on a podcast app, a follow does the same thing. Either way, that's how somebody lying awake at 3 a.m. comes across a voice that finally names what they've been carrying. Now, think of the woman who holds everything together. She's the one everyone counts on. Work leans on her. Her family leans on her. In fact, she's been the anchor so long, she's forgotten it's a role she took, not a fact about the universe. Something small goes wrong in the afternoon. A message, maybe a mess, a plan that changed without asking her, and she completely snaps. She snaps. Just a little. Sharper than the moment deserved, albeit. And then comes the part she hates. That part is the shame. The quiet, that's not who I want to be. That follows her into the evening. And here's what I gently offer her. She didn't snap because of the message. She snapped because of the tone she'd been carrying all day. The low, tight hum of too much, quite frankly, for too long, with no one holding her. And the small thing didn't create the mood. It just revealed the mood. The mood that was already playing underneath. You've probably been on both sides of that, haven't you? The one who snapped, and the one who got snapped at, and spent the rest of the evening wondering what you did wrong. When the truth is, all you did was walk into a frequency that was set long before you got there. And then there's the woman who has never, not once, let the machine stop running. She built something. Maybe a business, a reputation, a whole life on being the one who delivers. And somewhere along the way, her confidence became a cage. And she's rewarded for it. So she can't quite see it as a problem. But she's exhausted by her own efficiency. And she wants to stop doing and wants to start being. After all, we are called human beings. We are human beings, not human doings. Right? And so she has no idea how to turn off the engine without the whole thing collapsing. And even her rest has become a task. The yoga, the green juice, the morning routine she optimizes like a project plan. And underneath all of it is a quiet, unwelcome question she keeps trying not to hear. Is this actually mine? Or did I just pick it up because no one else would? And here's what I'd say to her, albeit gently. The stillness she's avoiding isn't the threat. However, the stillness is where she'd finally hear the tone she's been running from. And that's why it feels dangerous. Not because it's empty, but because it's honest. And here's the third thing the tone does. The one that's easiest to miss. And it draws you toward what matches it. And I don't mean that in a magical way. However, I mean it in a way you can watch happen. The tone of the text you send shapes the reply you get back. I want to pause there for a moment because I firmly believe that text messages and emails are usually very dangerous if not used correctly. What do I mean? I believe text messages and emails should be short and to the point. You should not have an extensive conversation on there because one, things get lost in translation. And two, in the moment, depending on what frequency you're in, you can say things that once you hit send, And if you don't undo within the time frame that your phones like iPhone allow you to undo, it's sent. In fact, there's times when that's not even a 100% foolproof method. Sometimes it sends quick, immediately. And then what? It's difficult to take that back, right? Or it opens you up for even more explanation. But I'll digress. I believe you should keep it short and to the point. And anything emotional should not be sent there if it's going to take a back and forth conversation. So let's continue. So, again, the tone of the text you send shapes the reply you get back. Send it clipped and cold, and the answer comes back a little defended. Send it warm, and the whole thread softens. The energy you carry into a meeting sets the temperature of that meeting before the first slide. You walk in braced for a fight, and somehow the room finds you. However, you walk in steady, and the hard conversation somehow stays a conversation. Now, you're not imagining this. You felt your own tone come back to you all day long, wearing other people's faces. Now, I want to name one more person, because he almost never names himself. He's steady, dependable, the one who fixes things, who carries the load, who doesn't complain. He watches videos like this one alone, or listens to podcasts like this one alone. Late at night, maybe out in the garage, or on the treadmill, where no one can see his face. He wouldn't call any of this spiritual, but he'd call it stress. He'd call it figuring out what's next. And what he feels most, though he'd struggle to say it out loud, is tired. Tired even when he rests. And it's a flat kind of tired that sleep doesn't touch. There's a grief in him he can't quite name. A sense that time is moving fast, and something got quietly left behind. And late at night, he asked the question that brought a lot of you here. That question is, did I miss something? Or is this just what life becomes? And I want to say this to him plainly, because he's earned plain talk. That flat, tired frequency is not the truth about your life. No, sir. It's a tone you've been carrying so long, you mistook it for the facts. And a tone can be set down, not all at once, not by force, but it can be set down. So far we've stayed inside you, the tone you carry, the atmosphere it sets. But now I want to show you the part that surprised me most when I really started paying attention. Your tone doesn't just fill a room. It reaches other people. And it changes them. Let me give you an image. Have you ever seen two tuning forks near each other? You strike one, just one. You hold it up, and it sings its single, steady note. And then the second fork, the one you never touched at all, sitting quietly across the table, begins to hum on its own. How? No one struck it. But it simply felt the note in the air. And it started to sound the same note back. Now that's not a trick. That's just what happens when one thing that's vibrating meets another thing that can. And you've been the fork that got struck. And you've been the second fork. And you've walked into a room carrying calm and watched a tense person slowly settle without a single word passing between you. And you've walked in steady, sat down next to someone carrying dread, and felt your own shoulders climb toward your ears. Climb towards your ears by the end of the conversation. In fact, musicians know this one in their hands. Pluck a single string on a guitar. Just let it ring. And if there's another guitar leaning in the corner of the room, one of its strings will begin to move. The same note, untouched. One string wakes the other. And that's you at the dinner table. Or that's you in the meeting. Or that's you on the phone with your grown child who can hear your whole mood in your very first hello. Now, we don't touch each other only with our words. We also touch each other with the note we're already sounding when we walk in. Because words are frequency. But we are all frequency. We are all vibrations. Vibrational beings. Let me ask you one thing, and then let it sit. Whose note have you been humming along to? Don't reach for the answer. Just let the name arrive on its own. So now you already trust this more than you think. Walk into a house where someone has just been crying, and you know. You know before you see a face. Before anyone says a word. You know the air itself has a texture. Now walk into a meeting that went badly right before you arrived, and you feel it in the doorway. Because the silence has a shape. You don't need the story. The room already told you. We like to think of ourselves as reasonable people who respond to facts. But most of the time, what we're responding to is frequencies. To the felt tone of a place long before a single fact arrives. And if you can feel a room that clearly, then hear the other half of it. The room can feel you just as clearly. Because you're never neutral in a doorway. You're always bringing a note. And honestly, that's not a burden. I want to be careful here. Because I can feel how this could land. It could land as one more thing to manage. As one more way to fall short. And I'm here to tell you, It isn't. It isn't because look at what it also means. What it also means is your calm is contagious. Your steadiness reaches people. The warmth you carry to a table can settle a child, soften a partner, even change the whole feel of an evening with no lecture, no fixing, just the tone you chose to bring in. And you felt that too. Because the person who walks into a tense room and somehow lowers the temperature just by being there, being steady, being kind, guess what? You can be that person. In fact, you already have been on your best days. So the invitation is simply to do it a little more on purpose. A little more on purpose. Be deliberate. So now this is where I have to be honest with you. Because I don't want to hand you a shiny idea that breaks the first time you use it. This works in both directions. If your steadiness can settle a room, then someone else's storm can pull at you, right? You're not only the fork that gets struck, but you're also the fork that hums along. Which means some of the heaviness you carry was never even yours to begin with. And so you picked it up in a room. You caught it off a face. You observed the frequency of a place you spent 8 hours in and carried it home like it belonged to you. Sit with that for a moment, because that's heavy. That's deep. So how much of what you've been calling, quote unquote, my mood lately, did you actually generate? How much? How much did you actually generate? And how much did you simply catch and forget to set back down? Now, I'm not asking that to unsettle you. Not at all. However, I'm asking it because there's relief in it. And if some of the weight was caught, then some of the weight can be released. Because, my friend, you're not broken. What may be happening is that you may just be carrying a frequency that was never yours to hold. And once you know a frequency can be caught, you start to pay a different kind of attention. You start noticing which rooms leave you heavier, which people you always seem to absorb, which corners of the day hand you a tone you never asked for. Now, I'm not telling you to build walls, not at all. That's not what this is. What I am saying and telling you is that you can start to notice what you're picking up and whether you actually want to carry it home. Because some things you choose to feel with someone, that's love. That's presence. That's what it means to be close to another person. But some things you were never meant to carry. And you can feel the difference once you slow down enough to ask. So now here's the turn. If your inner state has a tone, and if a tone can be caught, then you are not permanently stuck on the one you've been living on. We talked early on about tuning, about the small turn of a dial. Now, I won't rebuild that whole picture again. I'll just say this. The tone you woke up in is not a life sentence. It's the note you happen to be sounding right now. And a note can change. But this matters. Not the way the loud voices online tell you it changes. Because here is where a lot of this teaching goes wrong. And where I think it loses good, thoughtful people like you. Somebody tells you to just raise your energy, to think positive, to slap a bright feeling over the top of a hard day and pretend the hard day isn't there. You've tried that. I've tried that. And we both know it just doesn't hold. Because you cannot paste a smile over panic and call it peace. Because the panic is still running underneath. And some part of you knows it. And the whole thing starts to feel like a performance you're too tired to keep up. And if you're anything like the people I make this for, the people I coach, the people I talk to, often, you are allergic to that. Just like I was. And you should be. Quite frankly, you should be. Because that instinct isn't cynicism. It's honesty. It's the part of you that refuses to lie to itself anymore. So now let me offer something quieter, something truer. You don't have to leap from dread to joy. Because that leap isn't real. And honestly, your body won't buy it. You only have to find one truer note, one small turn. Not from despair all the way to bliss. No. Just from clenched to slightly less clenched. From braced to a single breath softer. From everything is wrong to this one thing is hard. And I'm still here. And that's not fake. That's not being dishonest with yourself. On the contrary, that's being honest. And honest is the only kind of shift that lasts. Because that's your true being. That's who you are. That's who is. And that's what is your inner being. That makes you you. So wherever you are right now, that may be the car in the parking lot, the kitchen with the water running, the treadmill, the dark bedroom with one earbud in. Notice something with me. You chose to spend this time with me, listening to something quiet. That was already a tuning. And if a line from today stayed with you, please leave a comment and tell me which one. Someone scrolling past wondering whether this show is for them will read your words and know that it is. And you already know how to do this. You've done it without naming it. The breath you take in the car in the driveway before you walk into the house? You know what that is? That's a tuning. The pause before you send a message you wrote while angry? That's a tuning. The moment you catch your own voice going sharp with someone who didn't earn it, and you soften it? You soften it mid-sentence? Guess what? That's a tuning. And none of that is pretending. None of it is a fake smile. What it is just an honest hand on the dial of your own state, turning it one notch toward the person you'd rather be when you walk through the door. Remember, you're not the mood you woke up in. You're the one who gets to choose the note you carry into the room. So let that be simple, not a discipline. Not one more thing to be good at. Just a quiet fact you'd forgot. That the tone is yours. You set it. Not perfectly. Not even every time. But more often than the tired story you've been telling yourself has let you believe. And I want to sit here for a second, because this reframes something a lot of us have quietly believed about ourselves. You may have decided somewhere along the way that you're just an anxious person, or a short-tempered person, or a flat, checked out, going through the motions person. And you may have said it so many times, it hardened into an identity. It hardened into an identity. Think about that. An identity that you accepted as fact, but is not. An identity that's just how I am. But what if some of that was never who you are? And what if it was a tone you took on in a hard season and kept sounding long after the season passed? A frequency you learned when you needed it to survive something, and then simply just never turned off. Now, I'm not telling you your struggles aren't real, because they are. But I'm asking a gentler question. And that question is, what if the thing you've been calling your nature is actually just a note that's been playing so long you forgot you were the one sounding? Because if that's true, even a little, then you're not stuck. Then you're not stuck. You're not stuck being the person that tone made you. Because you never were. And here's why this matters so much right now, in this particular stretch of life. Because somewhere in midlife, the noise finally drops. It drops enough that you can hear the tone underneath. Because for decades you were too busy to notice it. Kids, careers, deadlines, bills, so on and so on. The sheer volume of the life you were building covered the frequency you were living in. But the life quiets down. The kids grow. The career levels off. And into that new quiet rises the exact tone you've been carrying all along. And for a lot of people, that's what a midlife awakening actually is. It's not a crisis. It's not a breakdown. It's just the moment the room got quiet enough to finally hear yourself. And once you can hear it, you can begin gently to change it. And so let me leave you with something small. Not a program. Not a practice you'll feel guilty about quitting by Thursday. Just one honest minute. One honest minute. Tomorrow morning, before the day grabs you, before the phone, before the list, before the first worry walks in, pause. Pause and ask yourself one plain question. What tone am I about to carry into this day? What tone am I about to carry into this day? And don't fix it. Don't judge it. Just notice it. Name the note you're actually sounding. Braced, tired, wired, flat. Already bitter about something that hasn't even happened yet? Whatever it is, just see it. Just see it. Because you can't change a note you won't admit you're playing. And then, only then, and only if you want to, reach for one truer note. Not the whole staircase. Just the next honest step. And that's the whole practice. Notice the note. Reach for a truer one if you have it in you that morning. And if you don't, if all you can manage is to notice and change nothing at all, guess what? That still counts. Because noticing is not the small version of the work. Noticing is the work. And everything else just grows from it. For the woman whose whole sense of worth got wired to how much she can carry, the one who's so used to the engine running that stillness itself feels unsafe, that minute might be the first time in years she asks what she needs before she asks what everyone else needs. And she might notice something. She might notice that the question underneath her exhaustion was never, how do I do more? She might notice that what it was is any of this actually mine? And for the man who's been the strong one for so long, he forgot that uncertain was allowed. The one who quietly wonders, did I miss something? Or is this just what the years become? For that man, this might be the first time he lets himself feel the tone he's in without rushing to fix it or explain it away or bury it under one more task. Because you're not doing this to perform a better mood. You're doing it to stop handing the room a tone you didn't even choose. If today put words to something you've been carrying, you'll find a written companion to this episode on my Substack at mignosis.substack.com. That's mignosis.substack.com. That's a quieter place to sit with all of this and reflect at your own pace. And the companion videos live on the Gnosis, the Quiet Knowing Within channel on YouTube, where, if it feels right, a quiet subscribe means the next one finds you without you having to go looking. No rush, no pressure, just a quiet door if you'd like to walk through it. So this week, as you move through your ordinary hours, the kitchen, the meeting, the text you're about to send, just notice the note you're carrying. Not to grade yourself, just to see. Just to see. Because the room will feel it either way. It always has. But the only real question is whether the tone you bring is one you choose or one you simply forgot to set down. You get to decide. Quietly. One honest note at a time. And if you forget, if a whole week goes by and you never once check the note you're carrying, that's all right too. Because this isn't a test. What it is just an invitation to come back to yourself as many times as it takes. Because the tone was always yours. It'll be there, waiting, whenever you're ready to listen. Until next time, keep listening for the quiet knowing within.